little bit of advice. It's actually something that I see happen quite a bit, especially when I used to do a lot more executive coaching and things of that nature. So imagine the scenario where a company's looking to fill a position in an organization department, for example. And typically what they'll do is, and it's not a bad idea. Typically, they'll look in people they'll look at the position. They'll say, okay, we need this, and this skill. They'll go and they'll find the person in their organization, for example, that does those things really well. Now, on the surface, it sounds like an awesome idea, right? What's wrong with that? There's several different things that happen, not the least of which is that just because a person's really fantastic at their job, they're a great operator in that position, doesn't mean, and it happens a lot, is that they lack the ability to take the skills that they're really great at and delegate them out to other people in their department. Happens a lot more than it should. I think it is I've seen it especially pronounced in sales organizations, right? Where the company will say, okay, well, they'll need to fill a sales manager position, for example. And they'll look at their organization and say, well, golly, this person right over here, they're fantastic. They never miss their numbers. They do whatever they have to do. They just, gosh, if they're rather than miss a number or lose a sale, they'll just barrel down and they'll just make it happen at all costs. And you'd think, right, that that's just the person you'd want in that position. But again, the problem is it's not about just rugged individualism in that position. Instead, it's about, do they have the ability, and this is huge, don't miss this, do they have the ability to say, I have all these skills that are fantastic in this position, but I can actually transfer them to the people on my team to make them better. Because here's the deal. If you're trying to lead and you're in charge, and you might be able to make a couple of different quotas. You might survive a couple. If you're amazing, you might survive more than that. But eventually, it's going to catch up with you. And here's why. Because your natural indication is not going to be to figure out necessarily how to improve other people so that together you meet the goals. Instead, a person that is not necessarily qualified for that position is going to say, you know what, I've got to meet this deadline. Instead of me delegating and training up other people to help us as a team, I'm going to barrel down. I'm going to do what I know, and I'm going to barrel down, and I'm going to meet those numbers. And guess what? It's just not scalable. It's not sustainable. And so, again, if you're in a hiring position, you've really got to think through that. You've got to say, okay, so you got to acknowledge that just because they are the best at their position, the best operator in that position, doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily always give them that leadership or management position. It's incredibly important. Now, that does not mean that they won't be fantastic at it. You just have to make sure that if you want them to go in that position, that you're giving them ample leadership position, and that they have really important skills for that position. And of course, and those are maybe obvious, they may not be, but we'll run through them real quick, some of them. Delegation, again, it's just like we said, what got that person there, the ability to make things happen, knock tasks out, make the sale no matter what, is only as good as now as that person's ability to help other people do that job well. Can they train them up? Can they develop other leaders, managers? So delegation is critical. Communication skills. This sounds obvious, but if a person can't communicate effectively with different personality types, it's going to cause problems. It's going to cause problems for that person that you're put in that position, and also for the organization as a whole. You got to make sure that person is also willing to make sure other people get the credit for things that are going on in the organization. Now, this sounds kind of rah-rah, I get it, but there are any number of things that motivate and inspire people to be their best. And a person, and one sort of universal, if there is a universal that everybody appreciates to some extent, it's the ability when the leader lets them shine, encourages them. And then I'm just telling you, you want a person who doesn't feel threatened by other people's success, but that literally gets joy out of building what I refer to as a leadership lineage. And you can see this amongst the best leaders, in business, in sports, it's really pronounced, even politics, you name it. The best leaders who get this, the best, most impactful leaders are people who have a lineage or have developed other leaders who have gone on to do amazing things. So those are a few things. I hope you find them helpful. Like I always say, remember, it's your life, live big.